throw like a frat party with like this frat.
Right.
You have
Well,
gays. There's gays in many of the fraternities, though, that are openly gay about it, and at the same time you have.
But there's also
I have
gays
gay friends
that
who
get
have a lot
kicked out
of
frats
heterosexual
for
friends.
being gay.
But it's not. You can't make a blanket policy to describe that entire climate because there's exceptions on both sides of the rule. You have some groups of typically very heterosexually dominated social areas that remain exclusively so, and then you have others that have really embraced. Have said we don't care if people are gay. So
and I think that's great.
Yeah.
That's amazing that these fraternities can do that. That they can accept and look out for their friends who are gay.
You were just about to add something as well.
I do think that's important, but going back to the separation as far as gay groups kind of saying, oh, you know, we're gay, and kind of using it as
victimization.
You know, yeah.
A sympathy tool.
I think a lot of minority groups do that.
And
use that
I
as a
agree.
tool
You know, being African American, I've seen that within our groups too. Oh gosh, it's because we're black, we can't do anything. And I think that really does separate us from, or you know, enable us from actually coming together.
For
so
sure.
I think that's the problem.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, well, shifting that a little bit, have any of you, gay or straight, experienced any blatantly anti-homosexual forces on campus? You're talking about the clubs that do exist, you know, LGBT, those types of things. You know, regardless of their actual function, have you experienced any actual anti-homosexual forces on campus?
Not necessarily anti-homosexual, like, you know, a discussion against homosexuals, but what I think is funny, and I've always thought was funny, is that a lot of minorities will come together and in a religious setting or in any type of social setting and automatically think that homosexuality is wrong, and they'll say a lot of things that, you know, that I don't agree with, because I feel like we're all kind of fighting
the
for
same fight.
equality.
What's disturbing to me is, and I think I talked about this last time on the show, but I feel that people who are in the same positions, other minorities, often don't advocate other minority groups, and I feel like we should be supporting each other. I was walking down the street, and I don't mean to sound racist here or single anybody out, but I was walking down the street, and there happened to be a group of black guys, and I was walking with some of my friends, and they shout out faggots. And to me, I don't understand that. I would never walk down the street and go, black, you're black. I would never do that. And to me, it's really disturbing to me that certain people, certain minority groups don't look out for other
But then going back, kind of to play.
And I definitely see that on campus.
I understand that, and talking to a lot of people who I know who are minorities who might be against homosexuality, again, I think it goes back to their religion and their conservative religious beliefs.
And then does that raise the question too, if tolerance is an issue, then as long as somebody's actions are not directly infringing upon homosexuals' rights, then don't homosexuals then have an obligation to be tolerant of those other people's beliefs against homosexuality? It seems like there's with a lot of socially progressive individuals, it seems like there's this mindset that everyone who doesn't agree with me and isn't as progressive as I am, if they don't agree with me, then they're the bigot, which is a paradox in and of itself.
On that note, I want to ask you guys the question. Given that we are at the University of Southern California, we are known as sort of a progressive campus. We live in Los Angeles, which is known for being incredibly diverse. Would you say that there's a sort of pressure on campus to kind of, you know, be supportive of homosexuals? Have you
I think definitely
that?
in colleges and universities, there's definitely pressure for political correctness. And if anybody calls somebody by the wrong name or there's some sort of discrimination, it's always called out upon, and students are punished for it, I think.
I don't agree. Only because from my experience, I've seen a lot of people stand very, very strong with their views, especially when it comes to homosexuality, and they're not afraid to say it. And I think it might be a cultural thing in specific cultures. And I'll again go back to minorities because I am one. A lot of times, minorities are not afraid to say, you know, I don't agree with this. This is wrong. Homosexuality is wrong. And I think it's because it's not necessarily accepted in our culture as much as others.
I was going to say that I do think, I think there is a pressure to accept different minority groups on campus, but I think what the issue is that there's so many differing pressures. Like there are so many minority groups, and it's not like, I think it'd be better if the pressure was like accept everyone, but because you have so many segregated like clubs and things, it's just like, yeah, there is too much pressure, and I do think sometimes the student body could get overwhelmed. I mean, I know I get overwhelmed even like trying to accept all the GLBTA things, like, oh, we're having a gay dance, you have to come and support. It's just like, I don't know, am I that kind of gay?
Did you have something you want to add?
No. Oh, no.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sean.
Well, then on that note, thanks, Justin. Well, then on that note, before it's time to wrap up the show, you're bringing up this issue of, I mean, we were talking about the rainbow floors, these gay dances, things like that, and I mean, to some extent, we've been talking about how those kind of alienate or separate. So I want to ask, I think that we can all agree, regardless of our different viewpoints on the issue, that acceptance is important, and that we're only going to be able to have a successful Army if everyone can be cohesive and together. What can we do as students at USC to make that happen?
I think the only way to create acceptance is to make it a norm, to make homosexuality a norm, and I think you do that through the media, through our exposure of ourselves, and I think right now we're doing a great job. Homosexuals, gays and lesbians in this country are definitely coming out, and I think the country's definitely moving along a positive path.
At the same time, that people on the opposition side are going to call that the homosexual agenda, which is pushing for acceptance through the use of media, but you have to expect that that's going to encounter some pushback, definitely.
I think it.
I definitely think that we're moving forward rather than backward. I think the media exposure is only a positive thing. Shows like Will and Grace, shows like Sex and the City.
Right, it could be positive, but I think that traditional values will still be pushed as long as the administration.
On that note, I have to wrap up the show. I hate to do it. I'm sure you hate it because I'm sure you're loving the great conversation. But we hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Do join us next time because it'll be a great discussion once again. I'm Shauna Rappaport. Fight on.
Platforum is brought to you by the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts.